Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Ted, and let me say thank you to all the elected officials who have spoken so far. We really have such a wonderful sense of mission going here today. And a special thanks to Ted. What Bob said is exactly right. Democrats in this district are doing better and working harder thanks to Ted. He's one heck of a force. In fact, when I heard that Iowa had shown twice the Democratic turnout that it had ever shown before, I thought, Ted's in Iowa. Turns out he wasn't, but anyway. I'd like to do something tonight that I hadn't done before, which is to introduce you to my family. My wife, Mary, this is Emma, she's 8 years old, and Lindsay, 5 years old. They're working hard and bearing a lot of the burden that we will be bearing. But I want to make a point that every parent in this room will recognize. I've been very lucky in my 41 years to have a number of different positions. I was a businessman, I ran an affordable housing nonprofit, I'm an elder in my church, I've worked in community organizations in Bridgeport. But I take no responsibility more seriously and feel no obligation more heavily than the responsibility I have to make sure that my daughters are safe, are well educated, and that everything is in place to make sure that they've got the best shot they've got at a good life. And for 7 years now, our president and our congressman have said, you're not a family. We are a family. And I'm not saying government is a parent or that that it's all about family, but we do have obligations to each other. We have a sense of responsibility towards each other. We've been given so much in this country that for us not to say that we feel commonality with each other is just plain blasphemy. And if you believe that, and if you agree with me on that, and you ask yourself some hard questions, how do we feel about the fact that there's 47 million people in this country who are one illness away from catastrophic bankruptcy because our healthcare system is so broken? How do we feel about the fact that our schools fail in many of our inner cities to begin to prepare our children for a crack at the American dream? How do we feel about the state of our bridges and our roads and our infrastructure? We feel badly about those things right now, and that is why it is time for a change. Chris Shays has been a congressman for 21 years, and he would have you believe that the fact that people are losing their homes all over the district, that our highways are a mess, that our schools are not what they should be, that our air and our water is more polluted, that none of that is his fault. He has sat on the Oversight Committee and been a senior member of the Oversight Committee for a long time, and yet he would have you believe that Halliburton and Dick Cheney and no-bid contracts and lost guns and lost dollars and Jack Abramoff, not his responsibility. And worst of all, of course, our congressman has devoted himself for 6 years now to a catastrophic war in Iraq, which has cost us $500 billion and now the lives of almost 4,000 of our sons and daughters. People, 2 of the 3 high schools in Bridgeport were rated by Johns Hopkins as dropout factories, meaning they fail to graduate more than 60% of the children who enter as freshmen. 2 of our 3 Bridgeport high schools are called dropout factories, and Chris Shays is packing for his 20th trip to Baghdad. It is time for a change. We can do these things. All of the public officials have said we have the energy, we can do these things. We can get serious about education so that everybody has a crack at the American dream. We can get serious about an energy policy which recognizes that it's about national security and the survival of this planet, and that we can do that and create thousands of jobs in places like Bridgeport and Stamford and Norwalk. And we can get serious about health care so that no American family ever needs to worry that a cold or a flu or some other medical catastrophe means that they're out of the picture. We can do these things, and we can do these things the right way. We can do these without raising taxes on the middle class, which is struggling so hard right now with energy prices and everything else. We can do these things because that is what we do as Americans. We do great and improbable things. Let me take you back to September of 2001. A million years, 25 years ago, I was an emergency medical technician, and I happened to be in downtown Manhattan on that day on 9/11, and I spent that day as a first responder working, shuttling between the towers, the fallen towers, and the medical facility that we had set up. And as awful as that day was, I walked home through the darkness of Lower Manhattan that night, and I could not believe what I saw. Huge lines of people looking to donate blood, people bringing supplies, firemen coming in from southern New Jersey, from Pennsylvania, from Vermont on that day with supplies and volunteers. People looking to give blood, sign up, checking in with total strangers on the streets of New York. That day stands for me as testimony to who we are as Americans. And it reminds me that we can do great and improbable things. What if our president had decided to seize on that moment and asked us to make the hard decisions and the sacrifices and the challenges and change things so that we fixed our energy policy, which, by the way, got us to that day? What if he had asked us to do that, we would have done anything to make the hard choices, and we would have done that. But instead, the president asked us to go shopping, which shows what this administration thinks of Americans, consumers, as opposed to family. So we're going to do these things because that's what we do. Great and improbable things is what we do. Think about it. The very founding of this country around the ideas that we're all created equal, which was a crazy idea at the time that we built a country around it. The Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil Rights Movement, which delivered on that promise, the highways, the defeat of fascism, the defeat of communism, the labor movement, which created a middle class in this country. We do great and improbable things. And we're going to start now by taking out of office those people like George Bush and Chris Shays who have asked us to forget that. Great and improbable things. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do it because we do it together. If you love those ideas, let's get together and let's win this thing. Thank you very much.